Good morning.
What were your experiences working with Steve and Jeff?
I had a really good experience with Steve and Jeff. You know, previously in sales, I always found it to be a bit of a random walk. There were times when I was very successful, when I was meeting with clients, and there were times when it was a complete failure. And I thought I was really good at sales. I thought myself, there's nothing anybody could teach me about sales. It's an art. You know, I'm better than the average guy. I'll be fine. So when I met these guys, and they came to work with me, I went to, and they had with some of my colleagues as well. I went along with an attitude of, oh, I'll probably not learn very much from these fellows. It'll maybe be a bit interesting. But I was really surprised because they taught me that sales is not an art, it's actually a science. It's a science that you can apply frameworks to, that you can remember and use in your day-to-day activities. Yeah. And would allow as memory joggers. So when you're in a meeting, you can go back to those frameworks, and they allowed you to pursue the opportunity with a client in a structured manner, and you didn't forget things, and you achieved a lot in the time you spent with the target client, and your strike rate went up tremendously. And for me, I was mind-blowing, loved it.
And what was the science in particular, Noel? What did you particularly take away from it?
The whole understanding that sales is not just about figuring out the logistical requirements of a client. Did he want the box to be square, to be blue, to have bows on it? That was, you know, 10%, 20% of the selling process. The other 80% was understanding what drove that guy, the buyer, what drove the people he had to relate to inside his organization, what drove the organization as a whole, and understanding those needs and wants and doing it in a structured way that you didn't miss anything gave you a huge opportunity to very quickly either establish a sale and in whichever way you want to define that, or realize that what you were trying to achieve wasn't achievable with this particular client for good reasons, and it was best to move on and be more efficient with your time and your day.
Okay. And if you feel you're able to comment on it in this discussion, it would be interesting to hear from the other side of the table what you perceive the effect to be on the client, on the customer, the target customer, of this sort of use of the science.
My perception was you got a terrific response. Fundamentally because people like to talk about themselves. If you ask the right questions, people will talk and they will open up, they will give you all sorts of information, and it's very much like dating in that way. And you don't ask random questions, you ask questions which are directed towards an end objective. But once you got people talking, it's the 80-20 rule. You want them talking 80% of the time, and you're only asking questions 20% of the time, but you're listening very carefully to what they say, and that itself is a skill you have to develop. Yeah. The ability to listen to what somebody is saying to you, not block them out as they talk and racing on to your next question, which is a great risk when you're a salesman. You've got your questions, you know what you want to ask. You ask it, the client starts talking, you stop listening because you're already looking to the next question. You have to listen to what they're saying and then use that to tee off the next question and the next question. And if you get the 80-20 balance right, they'll talk, and at the end of the meeting they'll come away thinking they've had a great meeting and you'll have really moved your objectives forward. If, on the other hand, you talk for 80% of the time about yourself and your products and how wonderful you all are, you'll probably find the guy looking at his watch, gazing over your shoulder at something on the wall, looking at his diary. He just wants to escape, he's bored. And understanding that this is not just a random process, but this is you can manage the choreography of a meeting to achieve these ends, was something that Steve and Jeff taught me.
Thanks, Noel. What were the memory joggers you referred to? What kind of things do you have in mind when you use that phrase? Oh,
they're famous acronyms, you know, facts, opinions, implications, change. You can ask the factual questions, every salesman does. People forget to ask opinions. They really don't ask about implications. Implications are great because most clients or prospective clients will talk about the implication of things. Change questions are great. People will talk about that. and it'll lead to another question. And also the strength of always asking open questions and asking any closed questions. Again, it's a great risk as a salesman. You answer your own questions, and you learn nothing.
And in amongst those memory joggers, what Steve and Jeff call the sales propositions. How did you find making the connection between the much improved questioning and what it is you're questioning for in the first place, which is ultimately needs and wants for those propositions? What were your experiences with those?
You know, the most important thing I learned was never to leave the building before you've done your preparation, not only on who the client you're going to see is. You know, with the internet you should be able to find out an immense amount of information about his organization, the people, what they do, what they think their culture is, what their mission statement is. All that's on the internet. But also looking at what your own products, what you're trying to sell, whether you're trying to sell yourself because you want to get a job or you're trying to sell your company's products, you have to sit there and say, well, what are the features that I'm trying to sell? What are the benefits of those features? What are the advantages that can be derived from them? And then work out questions before you ever leave the building that you could ask that would lead a client to respond in such a way that leads towards the advantages, the benefits, and the features, and then allow you to build a multiple point of contact so that your solution is really what that client's looking for.
Okay. And if it did go wrong, whether you're talking about yourself or maybe some of your colleagues, if it did go wrong, where did it go wrong?
In my early days, I would, especially using this process, I would ask questions, the client would respond in a way which I had pre-planned, and then I'd rush to a conclusion. I'd be like, oh, that's great, and then I'd immediately start pitching. And you learn to have patience in this, what I call interrogation technique, to find the information you need. You're almost like playing the CIA and asking questions, so that you don't pitch. The great weakness of salesmen, whether they're somebody selling themselves or they're selling a concept or an idea or a product, is that people run into a meeting, they talk about the baseball or the football, what happened yesterday. Client goes, yeah, fine, nice conversation. Then they get the pitch book out and they start pitching. And yet they have no idea. They're not qualified whether the guy wants their product. They're not qualified whether he's interested in their opportunity. They use whatever prop they have with them. They look down, they read from it, and he flips it, and there's no real communication going on. It's an 80-20 the wrong way.
Okay. And just finally, Noel, thank you for your commentary. In a very measurable sense, what did you and your organisation take from this? What did you get from it? What did you achieve?
We achieved sales which were dramatically higher than we planned. We had a sales force who were very effective. We eliminated weak players. We brought on players who were average and made them really good. The people who were already good became excellent. And so every hour spent by people talking to clients to achieve sales became way much more effective. And so the bottom line impact was significant.
Thanks very much.